Dark Zero. The Horror Network.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are now controlling the transmission. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can deluge you with 1,000 channels or expand one single image to crystal clarity and beyond. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive. We will control all that you see and hear. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the deepest inner mind to the outer limits.
Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before we start tearing into today's stack of sources, I just want to send a massive thank you to everyone listening from the Dark Zero Horror Network. We really appreciate you tuning in.
We do.
And if you're enjoying the analysis, please take a second to like and subscribe to the network. It really helps us keep the lights on and, well, the nightmare is coming.
It's great to be part of the lineup.
I want to start today with a quote. It's Saturday, February 7, 2026, but I think this specific string of words is going to snap a lot of you right back to 1995.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture.
Instant chills. It's completely Pavlovian.
We are looking at the 1995 revival of The Outer Limits. Now, usually when people talk about this show, they put it squarely in the sci-fi box, aliens, spaceships, lasers.
Right.
But looking at the research today, the retrospectives, the episode guides, the argument here is that the real DNA of this revival wasn't science fiction at all. It was horror.
That distinction is the entire mission of this deep dive. I mean, if you go back and watch Star Trek, The Next Generation, which ended right before this began, the vibe is competence. It's diplomacy.
Optimism.
Yeah, the future is bright. The Outer Limits was the anti-Trek. The sources describe it as a collection of twisted dystopian visions. It wasn't about exploring the galaxy to make friends. It was about the dread of what's out there and, more importantly, what's in here inside us.
That's a key point, the atmosphere. Because 1995 was a crowded year for this stuff. You had the X-Files really hitting its stride. So how did this show differentiate itself from Mulder and Scully?
It really comes down to structure. The X-Files had a safety net. You knew Mulder and Scully would probably survive to fight another day.
Right.
The Outer Limits was an anthology. Every single week, the board was wiped clean, and that means no plot armor. The hero you've been following for 40 minutes, they can die. The world can end.
And it did. A few times.
The fact the world ended quite a few times. That unpredictability is stressful.
It is, yeah.
It's designed to be. And it starts with that intro you quoted. That's the control voice, played by Kevin Conway.
A voice that terrified a lot of kids, apparently. I've read that everywhere.
Oh, for good reason. The research highlights that the intro isn't just a cool hook. It sets a tone of complete helplessness. It explicitly tells you, we are controlling all that you see and hear. It's a loss of agency. In a horror context, that's the scariest thing there is. You aren't the observer, you're the subject.
It's like being strapped into a chair. You have no input. You just have to endure what comes next.
Exactly.
And what came next was often pretty gruesome.
Yes. It wasn't just spooky. It was visceral.
Okay, let's get into the evidence. We have a stack of episodes here that prove this horror thesis, and I think we have to start with the premiere. Season 1, Episode 1, The Sandkings.
This is arguably the heavyweight champion of the entire series. It's based on a novelette by George R.R. Martin.
Wait, Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, for real?
The very same. Long before Westeros. And casting here was a massive stunt. It starred 3 generations of the Bridges family. You had Beau Bridges, his father Lloyd, and his son Dylan.
Okay, so you have the star power, but what makes it horror? It sounds like a standard scientist goes too far story.
It starts that way, for sure. Beau Bridges plays Dr. Simon Kress. He's researching these insect-like Martian creatures. The government shuts him down, so he just takes the eggs home to his barn to raise them in secret.
Of course he does.
The horror comes from the relationship. He plays God. He realizes they're sentient and that they worship him, so he starts starving them to force them to fight each other. For fun.
That's incredibly dark. He's essentially torturing them for his own ego.
It gets darker. They start building structures in their tank that look like his face. It's a creature feature, yeah, but it turns into body horror. He gets bitten, he gets infected, and the creatures eventually escape containment. The ending isn't some scientific breakthrough. It's a siege.
And they get out, right?
The source material notes that the creatures escape into the wild at the end. It leaves you with that awful feeling that the monster is loose, and it's entirely our fault.
It really sets the tone for the whole series. Humanity is the real monster, and the aliens are just the executioners.
Precisely.
So that's the creature feature angle. But looking at my notes on Quality of Mercy, this seems like a completely different kind of fear. This is just bleak.
Bleak is an understatement. This is often cited as the most gut-wrenching episode of the entire run. It stars Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2,
Right.
and Nicole DeBoer. They are prisoners in an alien cell during an interstellar war.
And this is where the body horror really ramps up.
Aggressively. Nicole DeBoer's character is being taken out of the cell and surgically altered by the aliens. They are replacing her parts, piece by piece, to make her look like them. It's basically torture porn with a sci-fi budget.
Wow.
And Robert Patrick is the hopeful one, the one trying to find a way to escape.
But this show loves a twist. I assume the escape doesn't go as planned.
Oh, the twist here is devastating. It turns out the Robert Patrick character might not even be real, or maybe he's been broken by the aliens to facilitate this whole thing. But the real horror is the sequel episode, The Light Brigade.
There's a sequel. I thought this was an anthology.
Occasionally they link them. And the follow-up, humanity thinks they are launching a sneak attack to win the war using a doomsday weapon. But due to alien trickery, the character releasing the weapon, played by Will Wheaton, isn't bombing the aliens.
No, don't say it.
He's bombing Earth.
Wow. So they tricked him into destroying his own home.
The sources describe it as a doomsday weapon unleashed on an already crippled humanity. That is pure, uncut nihilism. There's no moral lesson there, no silver lining. Everyone just loses.
That's heavy. That is genuinely upsetting.
It's supposed to be. It's meant to linger with you.
Okay, let's pivot to something a little more primal. I'm looking at the notes for Under the Bed. This doesn't sound like high-concept sci-fi or interstellar war at all.
It's not. It's pure folklore. This episode proves the show wasn't afraid to just be a straight-up horror movie. It's about a child psychiatrist and a police officer investigating an abduction. A boy is eaten, and his sister blames the monster under the bed.
Which is the classic nobody believes the kid trope.
Exactly. But the mechanic of the monster is what makes it stick. It's a shapeshifter, but it only comes out when there is no moonlight.
That is such a specific rule, when there is no moonlight.
It is, and it taps into that childhood fear of the dark in a very literal, specific way. It's distinct from the space wars or the laboratory accidents. It's just a boogeyman hunting children. It feels like something Stephen King would have written.
Okay, so we've got monsters, we've got war, but we also have psychological torture, specifically high school drama. Tell me about Abduction.
Right, this is season 7. The notes describe it perfectly. The Breakfast Club meets death. You have 5 high school stereotypes: the jock, the queen bee, the geek, the outcast, the religious girl. They wake up trapped in a white void by an alien.
And I'm guessing they aren't there to write an essay on who they think they are.
No. The alien gives them a choice. They have 1 hour to vote on which one of them dies. If they don't choose, they all die.
That is just brutal. Talk about peer pressure.
It strips away all the teenage angst and reveals who these kids really are underneath. It's a great example of what you'd call social horror. The alien is barely the point. The real horror is how quickly these friends turn on each other to survive. It's Lord of the Flies in a white room.
It's fascinating because it forces you, the audience, to play along. You sit there thinking, okay, who would I vote for? And that makes you complicit in the horror.
Exactly. It makes you question your own morality.
You know, as we run through these, I'm realizing something about the cast. We've mentioned Robert Patrick, Will Wheaton, Beau Bridges. The list of people who are in this show is insane.
It's the Vancouver effect. The show is filmed in Vancouver, which in the 90s was really becoming Hollywood North. They had access to this incredible pool of local talent, plus actors flying up from LA who wanted to do something a little gritty.
Who else is on this list?
I mean, it's a laundry list of future A-listers. Ryan Reynolds.
No way.
Yeah, before Deadpool, before the rom-coms. He was in a haunted house episode in season 1 called If These Walls Could Talk. Josh Brolin, Kirsten Dunst. And then you have the sci-fi royalty, Leonard Nimoy, Mark Hamill, Brent Spiner, Michael Dorn.
It seems like a lot of Star Trek actors went to the outer limits to play the villain.
It was a chance to break type. You know, if you're known for playing the noble android Data, it's got to be fun to go play a psychopath on Showtime for a week.
Speaking of Showtime, that platform mattered, didn't it?
Oh, a huge factor.
Right.
Because it started on premium cable, they could get away with swearing, nudity, and a level of violence that network TV just couldn't touch. It gave the horror real teeth.
It allowed them to be adult skewing. It wasn't watered down for prime time.
Right. When they moved to the Sci-Fi Channel later on, they had to tone it down a bit, but those early Showtime seasons are raw.
But let's talk about how it looks. Because 1995 is a dangerous time for special effects. We're in the, awkward teenage phase of CGI.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. The sources are pretty honest about this. The practical effects, the prosthetics, the makeup, the puppetry, a lot of it still looks fantastic. The Sandkings creatures hold up surprisingly well. But the CGI, green screen technology, was really in its infancy for television.
So it hasn't aged well.
Some of it looks like a Windows 95 screensaver. The critique is that the 1960s original was actually scarier because they had to use shadows and lighting to hide the zipper on the monster suit. The 90s revival tried to show you everything with CGI, and sometimes that just breaks the immersion.
Is the Jaws rule, right? The shark is always scarier when you don't see it.
Precisely. When you show a pixelated monster in broad daylight, the fear just evaporates.
There's another production quirk the notes mention, clip shows. Usually those are the episodes you just skip.
The bottle episode. Yeah, they did it to save money. But the Outer Limits tried to be clever about it. They would create a framing device, like a trial or an interrogation, to justify showing clips from totally separate old episodes.
So they'd try to pretend that the monster from season 1 and the robot from season 3 were somehow part of the same government conspiracy.
Exactly that. They would have a government agent reviewing evidence from past cases. It was often forced, yeah, but the sources argue it actually helped build a larger unspoken mythology for the show. It made the universe feel connected, even though it was an anthology.
It's kind of a bold narrative experiment. How do we glue all these different nightmares together?
It didn't always work, but you have to admire the hustle.
Speaking of connections, let's talk about the narrative structure. You mentioned earlier that there were no happy endings guaranteed, but the show was also really famous for the twist.
The Twilight Zone influence, for sure.
Right, but did they land them, or was it just shock value?
You know, it's debated. At best, the twist reinforced the theme. There's an episode called The Human Operators, based on a Harlan Ellison story, where a sentient ship controls a human slave. The twist there works because it's about the cycle of slavery.
But at their worst.
At their worst, the twists felt like cheap gotcha moments, just pulling the rug out to make the audience feel bad, undermining the whole story that came before it.
There is one exception to the anthology rule that we really need to highlight. Dr. Teresa Givens.
Yes. This is a recurring character played by the amazing Amanda Plummer. She appears first in A Stitch in Time, which many sources consider the best episode of the entire series.
What's her story?
She invents a time machine, but she doesn't use it to go kill Hitler or anything. She uses it to go back in time and execute serial killers and rapists before they can commit their crimes.
It's like Dexter with a time machine.
Basically. But it deals with the trauma. Every time she goes back, she loses a piece of herself. It's this incredible character study on revenge. And because she recurred in a later season finale, it gave the show a sense of consequence that anthologies usually lack.
That brings us to the overarching theme our sources keep coming back to, scientific hubris.
The idea that just because you can does not mean you should.
There's an episode called Final Exam that deals with cold fusion.
Right. A student takes his classmates hostage, claiming he's discovered cold fusion, basically unlimited energy. It touches on school violence, which was a very sensitive topic, but the core horror is existential. The message, so often, is that if we unlock unlimited power, we will immediately use it to destroy ourselves.
It's not the tech that's evil. It's us.
Exactly. It's a mirror. The technology just exposes the flaws we already have.
Another episode that fits this perfectly is Manifest Destiny from season 6.
Oh, the Space Madness episode.
Yeah, it's basically Event Horizon on a TV budget. A salvage crew finds a derelict ship where everyone is dead, and then they start going crazy.
That one taps into the ghost in the machine fear. The idea that there are frequencies or viruses out there that can just override our brains. It's claustrophobic horror. You're trapped in a tin can in the middle of nowhere, and your own mind is turning against you.
So looking back at this 1995 run,
Yeah.
does it really deserve a spot on the horror shelf?
Absolutely. 100%. It bridged the gap. You have the classic black and white golden age sci-fi on one side, and then you have modern shows like Black Mirror on the other. This show was the link.
Black Mirror feels like the spiritual successor.
It is. I mean, The Outer Limits was doing technology as a reflection of our darkest selves 20 years earlier. It was cynical, it was scary, and it did knock down to the audience. It assumed you could handle a bad ending.
And honestly, looking at the world today, that control voice hits a little differently. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive.
It really does. Back then, that voice was a fictional character. Today, we live in an economy of algorithms, curated feeds, and deepfakes.
That is a chilling thought to end on.
We have to ask ourselves, who is really controlling the transmission of what we see on our screens right now? Are we living in our own version of the feasibility study?
Something to think about while you're doom scrolling tonight. Just do not attempt to adjust the picture.
Good luck with that.
On that note, we want to thank the Dark Zero Horror Network listeners one last time for joining us on this deep dive. We now return control of your audio device to you. Thanks for listening.